Good morning. Welcome back to the shop. 24 degrees out here. We got the wood stove going, of course. Wanted to make a video. We're going to do a woodworking project, and it's kind of a special project. My first wife that gave me my two wonderful daughters, her husband recently passed away of cancer. My youngest daughter, knowing that I did woodworking, requested that I make a little box for his ashes. They spread most of his ashes where one of his favorite places was, I guess, but they held some back just as kind of a keepsake in his memory. I met him a couple times. Seemed like a good dude. We had a lot in common. He liked outdoors and stuff like that. We even had similar careers, I guess. But yeah, I volunteered to make it, and we're going to make him a real nice box. He actually told his wife that, don't you dare go buy something crazy expensive to put my ashes in. And that's just the kind of guy he was. So we're going to make him a nice box that I think he would like. I have some old barn wood that I'm going to use. I've been wanting to make a full finger joint box for a long time, and not just finger joint on the corners, but finger point, top, bottom, all the way around. So what better time to make one? And I got some old hardware ordered up to use. So we're going to get it going. So this is the wood I got picked out. It's about a 1/2 inch thickness. It's got a real nice patina to it. It's got some random thickness changes in it, but I got one good solid board that's the same thickness all the way across. And then I got kind of some random stuff I'm going to have to pick through and get the pieces that I need. But I'm pretty sure I'm going to have enough to do this. If not, I'll find something here in the shop. So to make finger joints, we're going to have to put our dado cutter or dado blades in the table saw. When you're doing finger joints, you want them to be kind of square. So we need to measure this around 1/2 inch. So our finger joints are going to be around 1/2 inch square. So once we get the dado blades in here that equal 1/2 inch, they're generally about 1/8 inch each blade, and they come with shims so you can make small, minute adjustments. And then we're going to make a finger joint jig out of this board over here. We'll just cut it square, and then you screw it to your cut guide here, and then we'll make a jig out of that. And it's got to be pretty precise, especially if you're going to be doing finger joints all the way around 360 of the whole box. So we're going to be doing some pretty precise layout. We're going to use a really sharp pencil because we need to get those measurements right on, dead on the money. So I'm going to get the dado head in here, and then we'll start doing some layouts and make this jig. To give you an idea, this is an older jig. This is a 3/4 finger joint jig that I made. Just goes on my crosscut guard. And you'll see it's got a 3/4 inch slot in it. And then this 3/4 inch peg that's exactly 3/4 inch away from that slot. So as you start cutting your slots, each slot will hook over this peg, and it keeps your layout the same all the way across. Every time you cut one, you bring it over, hook it on the peg. Cut one, bring it over, hook it on the peg. And it gives you a perfect layout. Or as long as you set your jig up, it gives you a perfect layout. So we're going to make one of those for 1/2 inch. So this is a stacked dado head set. What you get is 2 of these outer blades. I've already got one installed. And I got one of the chipper blades, which is these inner blades. The outer blades are all 1/8 inch, and the chipper blades are all 1/8 inch. So I'm going to need 4 of these blades. Now, if there's any kind of minute adjustment that needs to happen, there's different size shims in here to make those adjustments. But being that I want right on a 1/2 inch, if everything goes correctly, I should just need the two outside blades and 2 chipper blades, and that should give me a 1/2 inch. Now, when you're setting these up, the actual teeth on the blade are a little bit wider than the blade itself. So when you're putting these things together, you've got to make sure that the teeth aren't touching each other, and that the teeth on the chipper blades are in between the teeth on the regular blades. So once you get that done, they sit flat together. So I did some test passes. We are spot on, 1/2 inch thick, 1/2 inch thick. And then because of the wood is 7/16, I set it to where it's cutting 7/16 deep. Now, I know you mathematicians out there are going, that's not going to work. Well, the only time it's not going to work is when we get to the ends of the top and the bottom. Because I've cut all these on even measurements. They are 7 inches and 5 inches. So that the 1/2 inch is going to work out this direction. Now, when we get to where the ends come together, the only thing that's going to cause is a couple of the teeth all the teeth on the end are going to be just a little bit long on the finger joints. But we can deal with that just by sanding those down a little bit. But the 7/16 has to do more with the depth than the length itself. And these are right on 4.5 inches wide. So again, 1/2 inch spacing is going to work on those. So we're going to make our jig now that we've got everything set, and I'll show you how we do that. We're going to have to take a little break because the coffee's perking. Oh, that handle's hot too. Let me get one of my gloves. Just a little warm up there. So we've got our piece. We cut a slot, 1/2 inch slot in it. We moved over exactly 1/2 inch and we cut another slot in it. And we've cut this little piece that's 1/2 inch by 7/16, and we're going to fasten that in that slot there. So that's going to allow us, when we start cutting our finger joints, to start stepping over as we cut our joints. We'll cut one and then we'll step over and cut another one, step over, cut another one and step over. And that's how that works. So we're going to fasten that in. So that's how she works. Should have, we're going to be measuring it, but should have perfect 1/2 inch by 7/16 finger joints. You can see we've got a little piece here on the end. That's because this piece here was just a scrap piece. It wasn't cut to length. So on our good pieces, we should come out with an even notch here on the end. So I'll cut another piece. You'll see this one here, we started with it right up against that. To make the matching piece, you have to start right at that corner there and run it through that way, and then bring it over and do that. So you have to have an opposing piece. And I'll cut one right now, just a scrap to show you. So I cut another scrap piece just so you can see how they come together. And that's what finger joint will look like when we're done, when it's all together, press fit, clamped together, glued. So looks pretty sweet, and I think we got our measurements perfect. Everything's coming together real nice. You can see the little piece that was left over there. If we were right on measurement, we'd be spot on. And that's what we're looking for. And if you spend the time to set your jig up correctly and get those measurements precise, that's what you're going to come out with. The other thing this jig does is it gives a backing point here. So when you're cutting your material, it doesn't tear out in the back because these two shoulders here support the wood that you're cutting, and you won't get the tear out. See, we're back here how we have the tear out because we didn't have anything behind it. So it eliminates that. So we have all these pieces to cut. It's going to be pretty complex because these things are going to have finger joints all the way around. So it's going to take a minute to think about that as I'm doing it, to get everything to fit together correctly. So we'll kind of do it a piece at a time so we know what cut needs to go where. And when we get a little further along, we'll come back to you. But my coffee's probably ready to drink, so we're going to have some of that. What better morning, because it's kind of chilly out here, but let's see what our wood stove we built has us up to over here. Oh, we're up to 60 degrees in the shop. It's probably maybe 30 degrees outside. But Danny, here's to you, brother. We hope you're resting in peace, and we hope the ex-wife's doing all right. So something I'm running into, and some of you probably figured that out a long time ago, is when I go to put the end pieces on, I would have to cut a notch right here. Well, when I cut that notch right there, this piece here, and it's no longer attached. So that's not going to work. And I could cut a little piece to go in there and glue it in there or whatever, but I'd rather not do that. So what I came up with is I'm going to skip a whole inch right here instead of doing every half inch. In all four corners on the end pieces, this will be the end piece, I'm going to skip and leave an inch here. So this piece here is still connected to the end cap. And it came out just right. You can see I marked this piece. And to keep the layout, I've marked the X's on the areas that are going to be notched out. So those X's will be gone once I notch it. So I'm going to lay out both end pieces like this, and I'm going to lay them out on this side as well so I can make sure we do this correctly. And then I'll lay out the side pieces to match. And then once I get all that together, I'll put that together as a rectangle box. And then I'll cut the top and bottom accordingly because I'll be able to see where the notches are going to go. So I'm thinking that's going to work. So we'll come back. You can see after we're doing our layout here, it's a good idea to do this so you can kind of get a visual. The X's are the parts that are going to go away. So we have a matching pair. We have the side there, and the end actually, and the side. So they match. So we're going to do the rest of those, and then we're going to start thinking about the top and bottom to see what we have to do special for those. I don't think we're going to have to do anything special other than we're going to have to cut this kind of notch out here, but on the end it's still going to look correct up here on top. The only place you're going to have a long section is right here, but up here it's going to look right. It's just going to have actually 3 sections cut out, but one of them is going to be cut from the end instead of the top. But you'll see how it comes together. Now with this first cut here, the stop on here won't allow me to come over that far. So what I did is I just put this piece of wood in front of it. I made a mark right on the end exactly at 1 inch. And then we'll come in here and we'll eyeball that side of the blade, and we'll put it right there to make that first cut, and then the other 2 cuts will be right because of the block. Okay, we've got our dry fit together, coming together real nicely. It's nice and snug. So now we're going to figure out the top layout. So obviously we're going to have to leave a tenon here. I call them a tenon, but it's probably not a tenon. So our first notch will be here. And now that I'm thinking about it, I'm hoping that we end up with a full notch here as well. If not, we'll have to maybe put maybe a 1 inch one in the middle or something just to compensate. But let's lay it out and see what we come out with. So as you can see, we did not come out even. So I did what I said. I wanted to leave this portion here. Obviously we don't want to have to cut this one out, because that would obviously leave a gap here. So we started here, we just came in from the other side. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut out a full inch right here. Now on the side we ran into the same thing. However, we're going to leave a full inch here. So it'll kind of be symmetrical and it'll probably look pretty cool. So the hard part is going to be cutting this out without breaking these little pieces off and without screwing something up, because we're not just matching one side, we got to match 4 sides with the top and the bottom. So wish me luck. So I just set the top on here and made the marks, and these don't have to be real precise because they're just visual cues. The jig's going to take care of the spacing. But the thing we do have to be mindful of, and I'm glad that I thought about it, is these are not a full 1/2 inch. So when we start out, we're going to have to hold it back just a hair so we hit the right layout, because remember the wood's only 7/16 of an inch thick. So we're going to have to start there, and then our layout will be correct. We'll have to figure out what we're going to do here. We might have to put that spacer board back in to get the right step on it, but we'll see. So I've got this side and this side marked already. Now I'm going to mark this side, and then I can transfer the same marks to the bottom piece that I have over here. But I love this wood. You see how it's got the little ripples in it where it's harder and softer. When we hand sand that, that's all going to come out, and you're going to have the ripples in it. It's going to be really cool. I've done it with old wood before, because the lines in the wood are harder than the spaces between the lines, the grain. So the softer wood will come out when you sand, and the harder wood will stay, and it'll give a really nice texture. But so far so good. We're trying not to screw this up. All right, folks, about an hour later and my head hurts. This was crazy. So we did a little trimming here and there on the bandsaw just to get everything to fit perfectly. But now we're ready to glue up, and all the seams will tighten up when we clamp it together. It's going to take a little bit to get all the glue on. But that's what she's looking like. I think it turned out pretty good. All these long tenon things here will sand off. It'll be just fine. And this will pull down here. But looking pretty cool. Hey folks, welcome back to Clamperama 2021. Pretty crazy looking, huh? Got almost every clamp I have on this thing. Glue up was a nightmare. As you can imagine, all those little pockets. Wow. But I think we did pretty good. Any little cracks that we got going on, we'll put wood filler in later, and we'll make it look real nice. All right. Bye. All right, it is the next day. Quite a bit warmer out today. It's probably a good 60 degrees outside. Looks like got a heat wave coming up. We're supposed to get near 80 on Sunday. But we took all the clamps off the box. We let it cure overnight. So now we're working on some of the little imperfections. As you can tell, with as many finger joints we had in this box, there's going to be some little cracks here and there that didn't quite come together. This one's close, but I think we're good there. But we're filling all those now. I just take a little bit of the sawdust and mix it with the glue till it's got a good little bit thinner than paste consistency, and then we just rub it into the cracks with something like that. But it dries fairly quickly, and then we'll be able to sand that up and make her look pretty. And then after we get all the hand sanding done, we're going to put it back here on the table saw, and we're going to cut all the way around this thing to open it back up, make a lid on the top. And then we'll do some more hand sanding, and then we'll finish it up with some finish. And I got some hardware coming for this. It's going to make it look nice, some antique-y looking hardware, some real nice closures and hinges. So we'll see you after we get this thing cut apart. Well, actually, I'll probably show you after we, before we cut it apart, right after we sand it. All right, we got it all sanded up, filled, and we got a coat of stain on it. So we got to let this stain dry for about 8 hours, and then we're going to come back and put a gloss finish on it because that is requested. But so far I like it. The all them finger joints were a pain in the butt. Boy, all the way around this thing is finger jointed. I don't know that I'm ever going to do one of those again because that was tough. But it looks nice for the effort, I guess. So we'll come back tomorrow and we'll put some finish on this. All right, we brought it in. We cut the lid off with the table saw. And then we've done some sanding. We're going to leave the inside rustic because I really like that. And then after we cut the top off, we just laid a big piece of sandpaper down and sanded the whole lid surface on both sides. We sanded it nice and flat on a full-size piece of sandpaper. And then we took the 220 sandpaper after it and smoothed it out before we started putting finish on it. But this finish is supposed to cure for 72 hours before you do anything with it. But we're going to let it cure and dry up, and we're going to hit it with some 220 sandpaper again, and then put another coat, and it may take up to 3 coats, but we shall see. But it's starting to look like a box. Well, we got the finish on the box. This is taking a lot longer than I expected due to weather and busy schedule over Easter and all kinds of stuff, but we got the finish on it. And remember, we got the lid cut, so I've got the lid placed back on it as close as I can get to where it needs to go. And I've put painter's tape to hold it in place while I put the hinges and stuff on. So I'll just rotate it up like this. Then I'll place my 2 hinges on the back, and then I'll turn it over and place my closure on the other side just to keep everything lined up. And we'll show you the finished product because once we get this hardware on, we are done. So I got the hinges positioned, and I went through and I placed 1 screw at a time, being very careful that those hinges stay lined up straight with the opening in the box. And we made them the proper distance apart. What I'm not doing, got these tiny little screws. I've taken my small drill bit that's the appropriate size for these screws, which is the size of the shank without the thread. So you don't count the thread, you just make it the same size as the shank of the screw. And reason you drill these out, and I've drilled all the remaining holes out, is because as dry as this wood is and as close as we are to this edge, this will crack on you if you probably crack on you if you don't pre-drill those holes. So we're going to put these other 8 screws in. You can tell they're kind of a retro design, which I was looking for. And we'll flip it over and we'll put this cool little catch on the front. When you put these items on, I always put the top middle screw in first. That way, once you get it fastened down, you can adjust this piece side to side to get it straight across with the opening in the box. And then you can do those other 2 screws. I have this little tiny set of screwdrivers that I use when I'm doing these small pieces of hardware. The cool thing is they have tops on them that spin. So as you're applying pressure down, tightening the screw, you can apply pressure with the palm of your hand, and the top of that spins in your hand. And you can just use like 2 fingers or whatever to tighten that screw up. Plus, they're magnetic, so it holds the screw. Very handy. So we got everything lined up, got everything fastened, got the tape pulled off. It opens and closes very nicely. You got this cool little catch down here that holds it closed. You can see the hinges on the back there. Really like that hardware, the way it makes it look kind of old looking and rustic looking, which is what we were looking for, and I think we've achieved that. The hardware was just a kit I found on Amazon. There's enough in here to do 6 boxes, believe it or not. I think we got it for under like 15 bucks. But you can see the finish isn't perfect, but that's what I was going for. I wanted it to look rustic and old with the hardware and all that. It's a nice box. I'd be proud to have my ashes in that. I told the ex-wife it's nice, but not completely refined, kind of like I remember Danny, and I mean that in a good way. I'm kind of the same way. But Wendy, I hope you like it when you unwrap it. A couple days, I'm going to have to let it dry before I ship it off, so make sure nothing sticks to it. But that's another project we can wrap up. We got some more projects coming down the line. If you remember, I've been working on this ballast box for a while. I need to get it done for the tractor. It has a counterweight to the back of the tractor, so when you're picking stuff up with the front loader, it doesn't flip on you. We were at an auction today. I got a really cool old set of wheels for this barbecue I'm putting together. It's going to be a fun project, and I got a big circular saw blade. I'm going to make a nice sign for my shop. I need to finish this, put this metal band or the meat bandsaw back together. Got the meat grinder rewired. It's ready to go. But lots of projects. But we enjoy doing them. It's a nice thing when you're retired. You can do what you want when you want. And you can see spring is out here. Everything's turning green. Brandy's up there chasing birds. You can hear her. We're going to start going on the garden. We got the greenhouse going. Good here in Nebraska. We got some more cattle panels the other day for the garden. So we're going to start out there. We'll do videos out there. So next time, or until next time, stay safe, stay healthy. Come on back to Mark Kelly Farms and check us out. And if you're interested in what we're doing out here or want to continue to keep seeing our videos, make sure you subscribe. You don't have to do that. You can just check back every now and then. I'm not going to beg you to subscribe to my channel like everybody else does. So stay safe, stay healthy. We love you guys. We'll see you on the next one.